deflection, create half a yard for himself, and stick that ball into the back of the net. He does exactly that.
The unbeaten streak is alive and well as the Canadians make their way back to home soil. Slaying an old demon in Honduras, the Americans are the next test. A win over the U.S. in 2019 was historic, a first in over 30 years, and the Canadians want to prove that was no fluke. We're in Hamilton, Ontario, inside Tim Hortons Field, home of the CPL's Forge FC two-time league champions, normally painted orange. Today, it's painted red as we welcome you inside Tim Hortons Field. It is Match Day Live. Andy Petrillo alongside Oliver Platt, Christian Jack. Yes, it is Canada versus USA. Here's a word for you: doubt. That is the seed that this Canadian team has planted in the minds of many of its opponents. Doubt. No longer considered an easy win or a pushover team. I mentioned that big win in 2019 in Nations League for Canada over the U.S., and John Herdman has played that game back to his players, and he pointed out the doubt he saw in the faces of the American players. And this team wants to put that doubt back there today. Now, they've already played each other in this final round of World Cup qualifying. That was a 1-1 draw, and it's the Canadians who top the standings. That draw, by the way, the only blemish on the Americans' home record. And guys, we like to play the numbers game here, what it will take for Canada to qualify, if they drop a game, if they drop a point. But we know Herdman doesn't play the points games, at least not that he admits to us here, Ollie. He's all about, I want to go out and win. So having said that, is he going for the full 9 in this window?
I think it's a big ask. I don't think he'll be looking at it that way, but I think this Canadian team believes that, goes into every game believing that they'll win it. And so why not, right? Like, I think even a team like the United States, who we know are going to be a real difficult test today, they will believe they can win this game, and they'll certainly believe that they can go to El Salvador and do the same thing. What I will say is that I think this is the toughest game of World Cup qualifying periods. I know they've already been on the road to the States and played Mexico on the road, and you might think that would be a bit more difficult, but I think this US team, where it is today, is in a much better place than they were when they faced Canada earlier on in this window. And I think they're going to present a real challenge to the Canadians today.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's the toughest test they've got right now across the pitch, but it's also the perfect time to play them because you've got the comfortable with the points in the standings. And if anything, you would worry maybe is complacency going to set in if you're playing in El Salvador at home or somebody that you'd expect to win. There's no complacency setting in for Canadians when you play the Americans. No. There's nothing that you need to worry about. Am I going to get up for this? The crowd are already here. You can see the players arriving here at Tim Hortons Field. So, look, I do believe that is the mission. It is to continue to be unbeaten throughout this run, and again test themselves against what is probably the best team aside from themselves in Concacaf right now.
Feeling pretty confident as well in that game against Honduras. Again, once no Alphonso Davies, as we know, gone for all 3 games in here, and no Stephen Eustachio either against Honduras. So they're feeling pretty good. But what is this team going to look like as we take a look at the starting 11 here, brought to you by GE Appliances Canada? What are you making of Herdman's lineup?
Well, there's 4 changes. Larea in for Hoylett, Miller in for Kennedy, Osorio in for Atiba Hutchinson, and Marc-Anthony Kaye in for St-Pierre. The big story is Eustachio's not there, but Osorio and Kaye are back. I don't think it'll look like that. I think Osorio will play a little bit deeper, and at times will look, Ollie, a little bit more of a flat 4-4-2. But again, we can see that they're going to adjust with Larea going wide a little bit. Johnston can cut in. It can look like a 3 at times as well. Against the United States, they are worried about balls behind the fullbacks, and they'll need to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, I think we could even see a back 5 at times as well, with the way the US like to play in those inside channels. To have the outside centre backs be able to step and be really aggressive, I think could be helpful. So, as always with Canada, there's flexibility there. Tajon Buchanan's role in particular is going to be really interesting. We can see him playing a range of spots from wide areas to up front. Even with New England, he's kind of played as a central shuttler at times a little bit as well. Yeah. So he's going to be the one who I think they're relying on to really be that link player between midfield and attack.
Yeah, Sam Piet, by the way, leaving that game against Honduras with an injury. Now, with the United States, all of the teams were in action on Thursday, as they will be again here today. They were taking on El Salvador as a 1-0 victory for the United States. And they did rest a lot of players, but it still left a lot of their fans going, that wasn't exactly convincing. So would you say right now, Ollie, that this American side is actually vulnerable at this moment?
Not massively, no, because I think they've started to figure a few things out as these qualifiers have gone on, and I think their midfield three in particular of Musa, McKennie and Adams is a real top-class unit, and that's something that's come together again as they played more and more matches and has really started to click. So the question was today would they rotate the team and rotate those three midfielders in particular, as they have done in previous windows, and they have quite a poor record in the second game of the window where they tended to rotate the squads, or would they keep them together and try and push them through a second game? And they've done the latter. They're all starting today. So that is something that Canada's going to have to really get to grips with. There is still a big question mark, though, KJ, with this American team, which is the number 9 position. And it's Giassi Zardes again today, who is probably not going to inspire many American fans.
That's what they don't have that Canada do, is clinical finishing in the final third. And they know that, so they have to work through their strengths. Games are a lot tighter for the United States than they are more open for Canada. It'll be interesting to see whether they can put their platform on the game today, where it's tight and congested, defensive oriented. The weather will lean towards that kind of game anyway, their profile. But you're right, in midfield it's very athletic, very technical. Players from top clubs, Juventus, Valencia obviously as well, involved in there. Adams at Leipzig has been magnificent. So I don't agree that they're vulnerable either. I think they've got a level of toughness now. They're ready for a game like this. The only thing is their record away from home is really poor in Concacaf. Will it feel like an away game today? It's not that far over the border. They played in Columbus. It's up for the crowd to make sure that it feels like an away match for them.
Well, you're right as far as firepower for the Canadians. Jonathan David, Kyle Larin, and there's another one who was drafted by the New England Revolution back in 2019, and we knew it was a matter of time that Tajon Buchanan would make the jump to Europe. And now with Belgium, the 22-year-old has done some things on the pitch that has made Canadians jump out of their seats.
Business. Buchanan through the 6, it's an own goal! In the 10th minute, it's Tajon Buchanan!
We're used to labels. Apologetic. Sweet. Pushovers.
1, 2, 3, bang!
But screw labels. No more being polite. No more sugarcoating, because we're label-less and limitless. Oat Canada, the official plant protein partner of Canada Soccer.
Is about to put on a show. Touchdown! Sensational! Oh, Canada! Oh, baby!
A meter and a half of hardwood and fiberglass. 250 square meters of ice. All mean nothing until someone brings them to life. To forge the unbreakable and defy the impossible. Humanity drives everything, and it's what inspires us at Toyota. Because everything in this world is ours to bring to life.
For life's transitions, working from home, and even small businesses, life gets better when you have space. With no long-term contracts or leases, get the size you need. First 4 weeks free. Access Storage. Proud partner of Canada Soccer's men's national team.
Until last year, the Canadians hadn't met the United States in World Cup qualifying since 1997 when Les Rouges fell 3-0 to the red, white and blue in Stanford, California before falling by the same margin at Burnaby, BC Swangard Stadium. Until now, it's the closest Canada men have come to reaching a FIFA World Cup. As we welcome you back to Match Day Live. The two gentlemen calling this one, Gareth Wheeler, Terry Dunfield, in a very warm booth. Gentlemen.
Thanks, Andy. I know that Terry's ready for this one today. I woke up to a picture of him wearing his Canada red, taking on the U.S. and Michael Bradley. And look, it's going to be a right tussle today. These two sides setting the standard in Concacaf. 1 and 2 in the table, 1 and 2 in goals scored, goals against, goal differential. All the statistic measurables all skew into the favor of both these two sides. So what are you expecting from Canada today? Do they go out and play for the full 3 points? Or is a point, job done today when it comes to John Herdman and his side?
It's an interesting, what is that strategy? We're excited coming here. We want to get after it. I'm sure the players do as well. It's a new Canada. It's a fearless Canada. So option one is taking on that press. Say, you know what? This is one of the U.S.'s biggest strengths. Come press us. We're going to play through it, and there's good stuff on the other side of it. You know what? We're going to go press the U.S. like we did in October 2019, completely smother them, stifle them, and really get after them. That's option A. Option B, a little bit more pragmatic, like the second game, like in Nashville. Really respect the U.S., allow them to come on to us, really protect our half, hit them on the counter. Option C, and this is where Herdman is so good, is it a hybrid of the two? Is it a mix? Picking your moments when to really get after it, take that press on. I probably think it's option C.
Let's hope for a heavyweight tilt. The both teams' results on Thursday night, both coming away with victories, certainly helps in terms of the context. It was interesting hearing Greg Berhalter, the U.S. men's national team head coach, and his comments out of this one about how he's cheering for Canada. He wants to see their rival make and qualify for the World Cup. Are you buying it, or does it seem a little bit patronizing to you?
I think it takes a little bit of a sting out of the game. I think it's a little bit of a mind game. Big picture, I get where Berhalter's head is at. I think it's great for Concacaf if the U.S., Mexico, and Canada are at the show. But would I say that the eve of before this rivalry game? Probably not. And apologies to our soccer purists. I'm going to use an ice hockey analogy. Would the Habs coach say to the Maple Leafs in a playoff run, we'd love to see the Leafs in the playoffs? Of course not. And I think maybe, just maybe, Berhalter had a fantastic playing career, did great stuff with the Columbus Crew. This U.S. team's in form right now. He's doing a great job. His superpower is his tactical framework, his blueprint. We know how the U.S. are going to play. Is that just a little chink? When the chips are down and the battle's on, can Berhalter go toe-to-toe?
He's going to have something to think about. John Herdman is up for this one, and Berhalter will have to deal with the 10th different Canadian men's national team starting 11 over the course of this final round of qualifying. Back to you, Andy.
Thank you very much, Gareth. And yeah, Terry just had to go there with the Habs-Leafs rivalry as well, right? All right, getting Concacaf. We've all heard it. Yes, it is a verb. And in years past, the Canadians always played by the rules. They were the nice guys, but it never went their way. They got Concacaf. So this new generation has said, all right, you want to play by those rules? We got you. Just be careful what you wish for.
Your Canadians men's national team is about to put on a show.
This is a new Canada, new mindset, new mentality. We have a lot more confidence in ourselves.
Razor goes long, pings one for David. Look at that control, Jonathan David! Funes Mori gets in behind. Look out! Good slip pass. Stand up. Inside. Is there contact?
Obviously, we're a group full of belief. There's no more having to be scared or fearful of opponents. Obviously, you need to respect opponents.
Like I said, we take it one game at a time. It's only 90 minutes. Yes, it's going to be tough, tough conditions and all that, but I think we've shown that, we're able to cope with those difficult conditions, that, nothing can affect us, and it's a matter of playing a football game 11v11, and we're going to prepare for that.
They're having a right go as Lai's taken down from behind by Alvarez, and the Canadian player is going to take exception to that.
You have to have some fight, have some grit along with the pretty passing plays.
Not the first time tonight the teams come together.
If you want to be a complete team, you got to do the dirty stuff and the clean stuff. And, you know, for too long I felt like, you know, Canada's been being pushed around, and that's one thing we're not going to give to any team.
Move over, Broad Street bullies. The Canadians are down. And I guess is that the reputation they now have as well here, KJ, where they're not just a good team, but a tough team?
Well, I think it goes hand in hand for me. I think if you're mentally tough, you've got to be physically tough. And I think, it goes with it. They're not going to be pushed around. But that bravado and brashness, I think there's been a good balance from it all. And there's a reason why that is, because they know they can't cross that line. It's a bigger factor again tonight. This afternoon, they don't want to be too emotional, because then it becomes, you're not playing the actual occasion, you're just playing the opponent. So I think they've had a good balance of that right now, understanding that is Concacaf, and you've got to get involved in those kind of things.
Yeah, and there's a few different things in Concacaf that I think they've suffered from in past years that they're now embracing. You know, part of it's the mentality of the team, but also part of it's taking Mexico to Edmonton, right? Like targeting what your opponent is good at, or how they really thrive, and then trying to counter that in any way you can. And they found a number of ways to do that. I also think with this team that they hate the idea that coming up to Canada, and it has been in the past, is an easy trip, right? You get a nice hotel, everything's put on for you, they roll out the red carpet, and everything's very welcoming. And that is clearly not going to be the case anymore. I think teams are now starting to learn that. And I think the United States today will know that if they come, like you mentioned earlier, Andy, if they come here today with the same attitude and mentality they came here with in 2019, they will lose today. And that's the competitive level that Canada has established.
Milan Borjan, just saw him there, is warming up for the Canadian side. And he's really blossomed, I guess. I mean, if ever you watch his, Serbian league play, this is a top-notch goalkeeper, but something seems to have changed, Ollie, when it comes to him and the Canadian national team. We know as a leader, we've seen him, after games, getting the troops going, we've seen him in the locker room, we've seen that footage, we know he's a voice. But what has changed for him personally as well that then has permeated throughout this team?
Well, I come back to a similar thing, though, that we just spoke about, really, which is that I think it feels a lot more serious to play for Canada now. And I think in particular, when you look at some of the kind of veteran players like Vitoria, like Borjan, like Junior Hoylett, who play in Europe, they're used to high standards. They're used to real professionalism and a real competitive level. And I think at times, not always, but at times when they've come and reported for Canada down the years, they haven't found that in this group, right? It's been a bit different. It's been a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more amateurish at times. And clearly that is not the case anymore. And so when you bring these players who are used to those kinds of environments and those standards and that pressure that comes with it as well, when you're now bringing them into these Canadian teams, KJ, they're actually feeling motivated and hungry to represent this country, and they're thriving because of it. Yeah,
that's bang on. There was a story 3 years ago, John Herdman told the members of the media that Milan Borjan said to him, when I used to come to Canada to play for Canada, it was like being on vacation. That's what he used to say, because the standards weren't there. It was a relief to get away from the competitive edge of European football and just to come over and deliver at that point. But now, Herdman and his coaching staff have cracked it, because they don't even need to police it themselves anymore. It's that critical mass in terms of the squad where they've got leaders led by Borjan and others, where they just set the standards and everybody else follows. And that's why it's so important to see what he's doing on the pitch, because he's backing it up.
Another story we hear across all sports, especially when it comes to the goalkeeper position, because there's only two, is that internal rivalry, that internal push. How much does Max Crepeau also motivate Milan Borjan to be at his best all the time?
100%, because he knows that Max Crepeau is good enough to be starting right now. I don't think many Canadian fans would have any issue whatsoever, especially Vancouver Whitecaps fans, with Crepeau being the guy who takes the gloves. I think he's shown at the Gold Cup that he's totally reliable when called upon. So that competition, I think, in any position on the field always helps.
Yeah, same with the US too, with Turner and Stefan, right? As the Americans come out now to feel their reception when they start feeling like it's away from home. But Turner's playing today, Stefan's not hurt. In regards to that, they've got their Crepeau playing today, right? And again, a top goalkeeper, and obviously looks at in terms of going to Europe as well. So this is great scenes to see as they come out here.
The emotional swings, right? The Americans come out, you can hear the boos, and now you're hearing the cheers, and maybe you can see some of the flags behind us as the Canadians now make their way out onto the pitch. That 2-0 win for Canada over Honduras on Thursday, by the way, was the Canadians' first road win in this final round of World Cup qualifying. But the key is they've managed to take points in every single game. They're undefeated, 5 wins, 4 draws. Here's how they got here.
Alphonso Davies, it's a tie game. Kyle Larin, top scorer in World Cup qualifying across the entire region, has leveled things for Canada. Good ball, Larea, stop and go across. It's in! Atiba, it had to be! Finds Davies. Inside, Osorio! Oh, so good! Lawrence gets past Fraser Crepeau, taking no chances. Alphonso Davies, are you kidding me? An individual piece of brilliance. Here we go, good ball, lifted up to the far post. Barrera spills, it's in! Goal! Stacchio, good ball, touchdown! Sensational! Goal! Fraser goes long, pins one for David. Look at that control! Jonathan David! Oh my! That was special! The touch out of heaven!
So many memorable moments so far in this journey, and in particular in this final round of World Cup qualifying. Osorio's goal in Mexico. You have Kyle Larin tying Dwayne De Rosario for most goals scored. He's 1 goal away from owning that record himself. Atiba Hutchinson getting the record for most cap player, on and on and on. But let's talk about 2 particular goals that got Canadians very excited. And yes, that's the Alphonso Davies against Panama that went viral, and a lot of people are still talking. That just happened on Thursday, the goal by Jonathan David, and yes, that wonderful pass by Liam Fraser. I'm going to put you on the spot here, Ollie, because which goal has been the bigger moment for Canada soccer?
I hate this question. I think in terms of their quality and the difficulty to execute them, I'd put them about on a par, but I have to take Davies because it was at home, right? And I was there, firstly, which helps.
That
and
matters.
you feel that moment. And so were 25,000, 30,000 other Canadians who felt it and were on their feet in that moment. So I really cannot separate them on any basis besides that. But I think just being in Canada gives Davies the edge.
That's why the heart always beats the head.
Yes.
It's how it makes you feel, and that's why Canadians were there. It's what made them feel, and that's why it's the right answer. I'm just glad we have a number of them to pick from, because this is why the journey is more important than the destination. This whole process to get to Qatar, it's like a brand new band coming out and having their best records on their first album. That's what it feels like to me. These things are going to talk about for the rest of your life, these moments right now in the biggest moments of their career. So I'm just delighted that we've got them, and as you said, the Osorio one in Azteca, there's plenty of them. It's just a thrill that the Canadian fans at home are able to realize it and then see some more today here in Hamilton.
Yeah, they would love to see some more today, that's for sure. And again, all the teams are in action once again. We are in the penultimate window of World Cup qualifying, just 1 more to go in March. And right now, as mentioned, the Canadians top the standings. They're taking on the U.S., who's just 1 point behind them. Mexico sitting in 3rd. They take on Costa Rica. It's Panama, Jamaica, and then it's Honduras and El Salvador. How about this for a numbers game and probabilities? This is Concacaf's probabilities to automatically qualify for Qatar. 98%. You were considered a genius if you got that on a test at school. So that looks like a pretty good number to me. So I guess the bigger question here, as I mentioned, being in the penultimate window, At this point, KJ, what does Canada have to do to not make the World Cup? I mean, do they have to just absolutely implode?
Yeah, a complete meltdown, really. Not win any games and maybe lose them all, or a couple of draws here or there. I mean, it's not even in the discussion. It's not even in the thought process, right? Because they just have never come close to dipping into that level. And even if they get beat today, and that's the worst case scenario, I guarantee you the coaches are not concerned about the evaluation of the result right now. It's how they're playing. How can you move on to the next game, Ollie? So, look, it's not even in the thought process, as I said, and it's now becoming a big topic in world football that this is one of the biggest storylines in the World Cup qualification across the planet.
Yeah, I just look ahead to the next window and I look at that Jamaica game at home, and that's one that Canada should win. You know, I don't think that Jamaica are going to be at full strength at that point because they'll probably be eliminated by then. Don't see the European players coming over. So that's one that immediately you should be thinking 3 points. And then again, whatever happens here today, you've got 3 other games where you might not need anything, but you at most you're going to need 2 or 3 more points from those 3 games. It would take an epic collapse from here not to happen.
Yeah, and the top 3 really starting to separate themselves from the rest of the pack, especially that game on Thursday. It was huge for Costa Rica to pick that up over Panama as well, as they're fighting for that 4th spot. But let me ask you this about Greg Berhalter's comments. Terry Dunfield commented on it, and clearly he made it clear. He doesn't want to hear none of that, especially on the eve of a game. But what do you make of him saying that, you know, that yes, of course, we're rooting for Canada. Today we want them to lose, but in general, we're rooting for them to go to the World Cup?
I see it very differently from Terry. Terry's a former player, so I can understand why, and obviously his connections to the US is very different to mine. Greg Berhalter's one of the classiest guys I've ever interviewed in this game. I'll just say this, you know, to look at it from their angle, think about them for a second. Canada was nobodies for the United States. Canada had beaten them once in 36 years in a competitive game. So this is not Habs versus the Leafs. You know, Canada was an irrelevance to US soccer in the men's game for years, and in 2019 that changed, and they're no longer that case. They will be up for it tonight or today, Ollie, but at the same time you have to understand it's very different rivalry the way they look at it than we do.
Yeah, you're right, but I still don't want to hear it really. If I'm a Canada fan or a Canada player, like I don't want the opposition coach coming out and saying, oh, we hope they win every game apart from one against us. You want to be considered a rival, right? And as KJ said, that's not there yet, and hopefully we can get there in a bit of time and with more matchups between these 2 teams with this new Canada that we have now that is going to be a real challenger to the United States. But yeah, sooner rather than later, I'm hoping.
You and Terry just don't like compliments, do you?
No.
How dare you wish that we go to the World Cup?
It's a little passionate. I don't think Berhalter meant it that way because he's a really good coach and a nice guy. But
let's check. The conversation may be very different depending on what happens tonight today, and there's something squaring up out there. That's why you have these events. Yeah. This is what happens. It can continue to build and change narratives.
Yeah.
But right now, I think, you know, that, like I said, they are very respectful of what Canada have given them, and now they have to understand they're in a real game today.
Yeah, and to your point, they really have as well. I mean, you look back even at that Gold Cup game where even though Canada led in the goal with, you know, inside the first few minutes there, and it was 1-0, Canada really was the dominant team, and you could tell the Americans now started to look over their shoulder just a little bit here. And to your point, it's been a rivalry. Can you even call it that? Everyone has always said, can you call it a rivalry because the Americans have dominated it for so long? But the last few years, the Canadians for sure have started to flip the switch a little bit here and change the script, Ollie.
They have, yeah, and I think, you know, we'll see how Mexico responds to what has not been a great qualification period for them, but these 2 teams are rising. They're young, they're only going to get better, and they're set to be at the top of this region for a while.
This is a massive test for the United States. They don't get many tests like this. They play Gold Cups at home, they play Nations League games at home, they play everything at home. They don't play many away games like this. This is a great test for a team that is expected to play in Qatar.
Yeah, and I mean, I know 12,000 are here, but it's sold out right away, and this is obviously feeling like a much bigger crowd here inside Tim Hortons Field. Well, OneSoccer is also your home for Concacaf Champions League. It begins in February. Canadian champion CF Montreal take on Santos Laguna. And the occupants of this stadium, Forge, they face Cruz Azul. All right, there you go. So you got some big matches coming to Hamilton starting today. We'll hear from John Herdman, and we have a special guest, Kyle Becker, Forge captain, who stops by for a chat as the fans make their way inside the stadium.
Yes to labels. Apologetic. Sweet. Pushovers.
1, 2, 3, red!
But screw labels. No more being polite. No more sugarcoating. Because we're label-less and limitless. Oat Canada, the official plant protein partner of Canada Soccer.
To play. It's something that's in us from the very beginning, and something we take with us on every step of the journey. When we have no words, it gives us a way to speak. When we are still finding our way in the world, it gives us somewhere to belong. And no matter who we are or where we come from, it gives us the right to dream.
Christine Sinclair as she scores at her 5th World Cup. Alfonso Davies!
It's time to celebrate the game we love. It's time to play.
Jonathan David, as we're going to see, has done something that very, very few players on earth are capable of doing, but he's one of them right now.
Fraser goes long, pings one for David. Look at that control! Jonathan David!
And one-on-one is that moment that separates the greats between the average players, and many fail. The fear of what's going to happen next, and the game slows down for the greats, and that's what he's able to do.
Yeah, we know his nickname is the Iceman, and that's just because he keeps it cool and collected under pressure.
Ability to score with his head and slow it down in the crucial moments. The hardest thing to do in the game is to score goals, and he makes it look easy, and he's Canadian, and we should be very blessed.
The touch out of heaven! Here's Johnny!
The Canadian Proton Pack just keeps collecting one ghost after another. Nothing seems to intimidate this squad. Playing without star players, next man up. Playing in hostile environments, next man up. Playing against your arch rival, next man up. Another test awaits the Maple Leaf. It's the Stars and Stripes. We're in Hamilton, Ontario. The Hammer inside Tim Hortons Field, and top spot along with pride is on the line today, as it always is when Canada takes on the US of A. Andy Petrillo alongside Oliver Platt, Christian Jack here in Hamilton, getting set for this one in the penultimate window of World Cup qualifying. Well, the Canadians have won 4 straight matches as well in this World Cup qualifying campaign. They're looking pretty good, and they have captured the hearts and the attention of the nation. And if you haven't jumped on board just yet, perhaps a Canada-USA match ought to do the trick for you. This is the rivalry that keeps on giving. We are two nations, sister nations, who are intertwined in so many ways. But when it comes to sports, this is the sibling fight that leaves holes in the wall. And these two are neck and neck in the standings. Just 1 point separates them. Canada right now taking the lead. And the Canadians have given the Americans a very hard time the last few years. You go back to that historic win in 2019. You even go back to a draw in this final round of World Cup qualifying in the United States, by the way. So, Ollie, would you say that the Canadians are actually the ones who are favored in this match?
I think it's a coin flip, to be honest, and I think it's going to be for a few years to come, and that's what's going to make this rivalry so interesting. You just look at the recent results over the past couple of years. Home win for Canada in Nations League, home win for the States in Nations League, very narrow win for USA at the Gold Cup, but that was heavily rotated teams, and then a draw between the two teams earlier in World Cup qualifying. So I think these are two teams that are on similar paths in a lot of ways. They're young, they're talented, exciting. But I don't know, KJ, there is something about this Canadian team with the path they're on. the kind of moment they're in their history, where they're making history every single window they come into. They're trying to return to the World Cup for the first time in a long time. There's something psychological about the Canadian team that I don't think the US has quite figured out yet, quite achieved yet, and that's maybe something that gives them a little bit of an edge.
Yeah, I agree. They're very similar, and the trending in the both in similar operations in terms of we're getting in the same area in terms of where they want to go. What I want to say, I believe, though, is for me, the Americans are very good without the ball, more so than the Canadians. What Canada has is dynamic attackers that the US won. I mean, they've got Christian Pulisic tonight, who's played a UEFA Champions League final, who's not quite at the form that a Jonathan David is, for example, or a Kyle Larin. Can he deliver today? And the other thing about the United States is they're so talented, but away from home, their record is quite frankly woeful within the Concacaf region. I think they've won 6 competitive games in 10 years. They're not used to playing away from home. Now, whether this environment feels too dissimilar to them today is interesting. It's across the border. They just played in Columbus this week. They're going to Minnesota. They're used to this. It'll be interesting to feel like whether they're away from home in their own minds. But they've got a lot to prove today against a very good Canadian team. It's a fascinating game as we head towards World Cup qualifiers.
Yeah, the cold is not a story the way it was in Edmonton, taking on a Mexican side and a Costa Rican side, because you're right, they just played in Columbus. You're talking about -11. St. Paul's -20.
Right.
So yeah, the Americans, they too know the cold, that's for sure. As we take you to Canada, starting 11 now, brought to you by GE Appliances Canada. We know Alphonso Davies not going to be here for the entire 3 games. We know Stefan Eustachio is day by day, although it doesn't appear to be in the starting 11 here, KJ. So what do you make of this?
Well, there's 4 changes. We expected Marc-Anthony Kaye to come back. Jonathan Osorio will take that Eustachio role in central midfield. At times it will look like a 4-4-2 with Larea and Buchanan playing as the wingers, and then Adekubi and Johnston can switch as well. Larea can play further wide and make it a 3 with Miller, Vittori and Johnston. The key is Larin and David are back, and they only played 2 games this season in this CONCACAF window, in the main window. They were excellent midweek, and they're there again. So I think they've got the best they can get out of these players so far, maximizing their potential as partnerships. It'd be interesting to see Osorio and Kaye against what is a very good United States midfield to see whether they can work as well. But so far, so good for Canada in terms of bringing that blend, and particularly against the US. As I said, this US team has struggled in the past, and this 2019 game at BMO Field was really when Canada started to believe that they could beat teams in this region. It was a monumental shift for this program, and that is certainly at the forefront of their mind today.
Absolutely. I think looking at that starting lineup, it is a massive task for Osorio and Kaye. To go up against Musa, McKennie and Adams, 3 guys who are playing a very high level in European football. They're mid-season, fully match fit, which Osorio and Kaye aren't as MLS players. That is an area of the pitch today where if you're Canada, I don't think it's going to be reliant on those 2. There's got to be some kind of other game plan to help them out, because otherwise they will be overrun. But all the same, those 2 players are going to need to play, two of the best performances in a Canada shirt, I think, if they're going to get control of that area of the pitch.
Yeah, the Americans are no slouch. Don't be mistaken here, by these questions of are the Canadians favored, and do you kind of put your money on the Canadians here? The Americans are no slouch, but the difference is this last year, Canada's not only given their fans hope, but they've given them reason to believe, and that's why this game feels different. Is that the case? John Herdman, he caught up with our Adam Jenkins to tell us just that.
Well, John, I see you've got the streamers cleared off of your jacket. What an impressive welcome that was. How far this program has come in such a short time to captivate this country. What was that like, walking off the bus to that ovation and gathering?
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. I imagine that's what Milan Bojan experiences in places like Serbia all the time. I mean, I feel like it's we're turning into that football country, and you get a welcome like that, man, goosebumps, just goosebumps. The whole you could feel it on the bus. But I keep saying to the lads, they've earned that. They've earned it with their performances, and the fans are coming here today, and we've got one thing to do, which is to get a result and qualify. We've got to just keep our feet on the ground, not get carried away with all the excitement and anything else. Just be humble, start again. This will be a hell of a game against a very good team, we know that. But the fans will be helping us along. We've seen it, we felt it.
The whirlwind.
So who are they, in fact, up against as we take a look at the United States? Starting 11, brought to you by GE Appliances Canada. Ollie, what stands out to you?
Well, it's the midfielders we were just saying a moment ago as well. But on the other side of the coin, where the United States are significantly weaker than Canada is at the centre forward position. And I thought it would be Ricardo Pepi, the youngster, who would come in today. He's been excellent for them during the octagonal, but he has cooled off a bit, as you maybe would expect a young player to do after the kind of year he's had. There's been a big load on his shoulders. So it's Zardes who comes in. He's experienced, but he's probably not of the quality, or he's certainly not of the quality of the likes of David and Larin. You got to watch out for Aronson and Pulisic. They'll try and come into those inside positions, and that's areas of the field Canada have to keep very tight. The pitch looks very narrow, by the way, which I think maybe to slightly cater to that, but there are threats that can hurt you there for sure.
Yeah, I love 4, 6, and 8, and McKennie is the best of the three, in my opinion. And what I like about McKennie is that he's a big game player, and a big game player finds moments at crucial times, and he's a real leader for me, and he's been marvelous for Juventus this season. But you're right, the United States storyline is all about that man, and it's Christian Pulisic. And he's been struggling at Chelsea. He wasn't very good the other night in what was a very average game for them against El Salvador. He knows that. Everybody's talking about when are you going to step up. And what him and Aronson are exceptional at are receiving the ball inside those pockets. They're not traditional wingers. They're not like a Tejan Buchanan who are killers, who are going to go to the goal or go to the byline and cross the ball in. They're going to come inside a lot, and they're going to make up that midfield 5. So who's going to track them? Is it going to be the fullbacks for Canada, or is it going to be Osorio and Kay? And if they do, who takes the midfield? That's where the game will be won and lost today. And if Pulisic and Aronson play at their maximum level, Canada could be in for a difficult match.
Well, as we've been talking about, Canada wants that full 3 points. In order to do that, you have to score some goals, and Canada has a lot of offensive power. He's already a top striker. Liga in France and other leagues are coveting his talents. Jonathan David will be looking to make some magic once again here in Canada.
Razor goes long, pings one for David. Look at that control. Jonathan David! Special! The touch out of heaven!
CanadaSoccerStore.com is the new home for official Canada soccer apparel and fanwear, including customized national team jerseys.
Your Canadian men's national team is about to put on a show.
For life's transitions, working from home, and even small businesses, life gets better when you have space. With no long-term contracts or leases, get the size you need. First 4 weeks free. Access Storage. Proud partner of Canada Soccer's men's national team.
A meter and a half of hardwood and fiberglass. 250 square meters of ice. All mean nothing until someone brings them to life. To forge the unbreakable and defy the impossible. Humanity drives everything, and it's what inspires us at Toyota. Because everything in this world is ours to bring to life.
Canada men's national team on One Soccer is brought to you by the Toyota Corolla family. Hamilton, Ontario's rich soccer history is a story largely untold, but with Canada's men's national team in Steel Town, let's pay a little homage to the city's past footballing champions and historic teams. including the Canadian Premier League's Forge FC, two-time league champions. And this year they have qualified for Concacaf Champions League. And they're used to seeing fans in the stands here, at least this man is. Sir Kyle Becker, who's captain of Forge, taking the time here to join us on Matchday Live, getting set for Canada, USA inside Tim Hortons Field. Welcome to the set. Pleasure to have you here. And you are somebody who's represented the Maple Leaf 18 caps for the Canadian team. And we've been doing a lot of historic kind of walking down memory lane, the team then, team now. What would you say are major differences with this squad?
There's a lot. I think we've always had, I've been a big believer, we've always had talent in Canada. We've always had the individuals, but I think the special thing about this team is they believe, they're unified, they're in this, they want to achieve something special, and you can see it. It translates in what we're doing, it's translated to results, and it's fantastic to watch.
Kyle, you know this place is better than anyone, I'd say, and at least in terms of footballers. Is there anything in terms of Tim Hortons Field, the pitch, the players are good?
I think it suits the boys pretty well. I mean, we got pace on the outside. We have absolute weapons like Richie. He can get up and down the flank. You got Tejan. Keep it as wide as possible. Use that. Make the field big and get at him.
You mentioned Richie there. There's been a lot of players who have been unified, and you've known these for a long time, by that background where they've not been wanted, they've been turned down, and you know what that's like, right? That burning desire of an athlete. How much is that part of this team? Because now we all see them at the top level. The best you can play is playing for your national team. But there's a lot of times when they've been turned down. How's that made this team?
I think you see it in how they play. These guys, they believe in each other. They all know that they're out there to prove something. They're proving people wrong. They have a chip on their shoulder, but they haven't represented our country and everything we're about, and it's something that we can all be proud of as fans, and it's translated, as I said, to results, but it's something for them. It's a little added motivation for them, and it's exciting to watch.
When we talk about, Canada soccer, it's obviously great when you see the national team succeeding, but it's also about Canadian teams doing things in other competitions, right? So obviously we're seeing an MLS side in CF Montreal and Concacaf Champions League, but Forge FC, what you guys have been able to do the last few years in Concacaf League, getting so close, and this year finally doing and booking your ticket in Concacaf Champions League. Just what was that moment like for a team, but then also understanding that's another Canadian team, that big tournament representing the country?
Yeah, it's pretty special. At the time, it's hard to kind of get the gravity of the whole situation, but we're about to play Cruz Azul in 2 weeks. We're about to play a game at the Azteca, and this club wasn't even around 4 years ago. So I think that's special in itself, and it's opening more doors for Canadians. These guys are leading the charge, and we're all kind of just doing our part around them. I think we're all part of this ecosystem that's pushing this game forward, and it's an exciting time to be a Canadian footballer.
Kyle, we know there's a ton of really hardcore Canadian soccer fans around the country, but there's also a lot more who are maybe starting to watch this team for the first time, get into the sport in this country. What can you tell them about where you play, the Canadian Premier League, and the role that league has in this country's ecosystem and the way it's been growing through 3 years now?
I think the simple fact that we're opening more doors to kids to play professional games and get that opportunity and see if it's what it's all about. Kind of get that experience and figure themselves out in this game and push themselves on to go on and do bigger and better things. And I think the teams across the league are trying to do that. They're trying to get young Canadian talent and then push them on to bigger and better things, and it's exciting.
This man's not going to say it, so I'll say it for him. He was the best player in the CPL this year, no doubt about it. What's it like at the competitive level of that league now? You've been there from day one. It's getting better. You're going in the Champions League now. For me, as an outsider, it looks like the competition level of the Canadian Premier League is getting higher and higher every single year.
Definitely. I think you're seeing more young kids come and get that opportunity, and they've got goals and dreams to keep pushing it and keep kind of pushing the envelope for this sport. And with that comes competition. And the more years this league has, the more it's going to grow, and we've got the right people around it making those decisions. So I think we're just going to see it get bigger and bigger.
Great stuff.
Well, Kyle, I know you're going to be enjoying the game today when normally you're the one taking to the pitch. So enjoy. Maybe you can sneak some hot chocolate our way if you can. Yeah. I take it with little marshmallows, preferably, because, yes, even though it's not as cold as it was in Edmonton, it is winter and the fans are bundled up and they're ready to go. We are less than 20 minutes away from kickoff. Kyle Becker, captain of Forge FC, dropping by our set. We've got more coming up on Matchday Live.
This broadcast of Canada Soccer's national teams is presented by Allstate. You're in good hands.
We're used to labels. Apologetic. Sweet. Pushovers.
1, 2, 3, red!
But screw labels. No more being polite. No more sugarcoating. Because we're label-less and limitless. Oat Canada, the official plant protein partner of Canada Soccer.
Oh, Canada! Oh, baby!
For life's transitions, working from home, and even small businesses, life gets better when you have space. With no long-term contracts or leases, get the size you need. First 4 weeks free. Access Storage. Proud partner of Canada Soccer's men's national team.
A new era for Canadian soccer begins today. Experience the emotion of every match. Watch all the highlights, the breaking news, the best debates, and analysis, and all the information about the Canadian stars playing abroad. Get access to the best of Canadian soccer from any device. Join the new dawn of an unstoppable game. See the rise on onesoccer.ca.
CanadaSoccerStore.com is the new home for official Canada Soccer apparel and fanwear, including customized national team jerseys.
Powered by Alphonso Davies, Canada and the United States played to a 1-1 draw in Nashville late last year after splitting a home-and-home Concacaf Nations League series that included Canada's memorable 2-0 victory in front of a wild crowd in Toronto. It was a win that legitimized Canada as a threat to make Qatar 2022 and led us to where we are today as we welcome you back to Match Day Live, not far away now from kickoff between Canada and the United States. Andy, Ollie, KJ still with you. It's time now for a tactical breakdown. Ollie, brought to you by Sports Interaction.
Yeah, we're going to look at, for me, what is the defining feature of this Canadian team and what makes them a threat around this region and difficult for anyone in Concacaf to play against, and that's their ability to take the ball in their own half and transition to a chance, a real attacking chance in 2 to 3 passes in just a few seconds. So you see here an example of a team trying to press Canada, and immediately they take the space behind with Alphonso Davies, who's got a lot of time then to slide the ball across to Kyle Larin. That makes it difficult for teams to really step up and press Canada. Then you look at some situations as well where Canada are a little bit under pressure. They're having to defend in games, coming at crucial times in games. This was against El Salvador, and again, Jonathan David, who gets through so much work defensively that I think goes unseen at times, is able to steal in, and just like that, then down the other end, Sean Buchanan scores a goal. Then obviously this one we all remember. Again, it's a period of the game against Panama where it's 1-1. Panama are starting to have a lot of the ball, quite a lot of possession at that stage of the game, and Canada are having to rethink a little bit. They made a couple of subs around this time, trying to get themselves back in the game. But again, when they're at their most vulnerable, seemingly at times, they're actually at their most dangerous. They can go the other way in the blink of an eye. And we all, of course, remember what happens with this goal with Alphonso Davies. And then you look at, just on Thursday night, another example. This, again, is a period in the game. Milan Bojan's just made a great save. It's 1-0 to Canada. They're having to deal with a bit of pressure, very deep in their own half. Bang, they're into the opposition half, in on goal, and Jonathan David has that speed and quality to put it away on the break. That is something that I don't think any team in this region, KJ, has really figured out how to deal with. It's almost like when Canada look like they're at their most vulnerable and they're in trouble in a game, they can actually really hurt you just in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, and it affects how the opponent's set up for you as well, because they're so terrified of that pace and that explosiveness that you can cause on the counter-attack in transitional moments. They've got technical players now in deep positions. We saw Fraser there, but the addition of Alistair Johnston, in particular Richie Laryea, in deep positions means you can play balls quickly and get going. But it is also, although it's an area of strength, it's also an area they need to work on too, because they know they can't just score goals like that. Yeah. You need to produce goals and have them in the final third and produce the goals better, and that is where the midfield can come in as well. So I agree, it's bang on identity of where Canada are playing right now, and it's one of the reasons why the US might just take a couple of yard steps back during the game, and they might be able to exploit that.
All right, well, let's head pitch side. Adam Jenkins is our reporter for the game. And unlike Edmonton, so yes, the weather's still chilly, but at least you don't have to shovel snow out of your area. That was still very highly entertaining for all of us here on the show. But yes, take us to the conditions pitch side here in Tim Hortons Field.
Yeah, it's definitely a different vibe to what it was in Edmonton, Andy. If you just looked at the pitch and you couldn't see everyone bundled up in parkas, you might even wonder if it was more like a match in May or June. The sun is out for the most part, and the turf is playing a lot kinder than it was in Edmonton. And what I've noticed a lot, especially talking to the players and seeing the coaches and staff gathering and warming up together, there's a level of confidence with this group that we've never really seen before. It's like every time Canada returns home, there's a new step up in their belief in how they're going to be able to execute the plan. And what I love, and we've talked about this time and time again, is the Concacaf aspect of it, having the control over the circumstances, the playing conditions. And it's not just the fact that Canada gets to play their match at home against the Americans, it's the fact that since this match is being played in Hamilton, it completely altered what Greg Berhalter and his staff were able and wanting to do. They would have much preferred to have been in Portland or Seattle, where it's a little bit warmer, the pitch is a bit kinder, but with this match, for travel purposes for Canada, Andy, it's playing right into their hand, and the Americans had to adjust. So it's just another example of how Canada is stepping into their own and truly becoming a giant of this region.
Thank you very much, Adam. Well, we know John Herdman puts a lot of thought into where they play, any advantage that can come the Canadians' way, taking advantage of that home field. And you can see here recent cold fixtures in CONCACAF. So right now, -4. It still doesn't beat that Mexico game of -7, although I'm telling you, that was -15. That board lies, because it definitely felt cold in Edmonton, that's for sure. But Colorado versus Toronto FC, that so far seems to be the coldest at -16. And we're going to keep talking about it. There are a lot of people, who will say weather is affecting both these teams. So whoever wins in spite of the weather, not because of the weather. What do you make of that?
I'm going to say, firstly, this is nowhere near as bad as Edmonton was, or the Mexico game, at least in Edmonton, in terms of the cold. I don't think the cold will be a massive impact today. I wonder about the pitch. The artificial pitches do freeze and they get very hard. That could play a factor. But look, the US has just played a game in the cold in Columbus. They're going to go and play one in even colder in St. Paul after this. I don't think the conditions will play as much of a role as they did in Edmonton.
I do think the pitch might slow it down a little bit. That might save Canada a little bit here. Look, Canada have been so courageous in all these games about playing the game in the identity that they want to. And they've taken it to opponents like Mexico home and away, US away. Can they do that again today? The US have a lot of good players ready to come and step up here. But that, for me, is the big point. Regardless of weather, surface, wherever we're playing, can Canada go again? People will talk about the result at the end of the day. That's what I'll be looking for. Win, lose, or draw, can they go and play the way they want to play against a top nation here in the United States?
And in this stadium in particular, it's not the cold, it's the wind. You don't want the wind to steal the show, because it can easily do that. There always seems to be a good little breeze going inside Tim Hortons Field. Well, the players are ready. The fans who are here are ready. Are you at home ready? Because kickoff is next. Stay with us. It's Canada, US World Cup qualifying.
Canada men's national team on OneSoccer is brought to you by the Toyota Corolla family.
1.5 meters of hardwood and fiberglass. 250 square meters of ice. All mean nothing until someone brings them to life. To forge the unbreakable and defy the impossible. Humanity drives everything, and it's what inspires us at Toyota. Because everything in this world is ours to bring to life.
For life's transitions, working from home, and even small businesses, life gets better when you have space. With no long-term contracts or leases, get the size you need. First 4 weeks free. Access Storage. Proud partner of Canada Soccer's men's national team.
We're used to labels. Apologetic. Sweet. Pushovers.
1, 2, 3,
But screw labels. No more being polite. No more sugarcoating, because we're label-less and limitless. Oat Canada, the official plant protein partner of Canada Soccer.
Providing competitive odds on all sports. Sports Interaction is Canada's sportsbook.
Canada versus the United States. It's a matchup that has been dominated by the Americans, but in the last 2 years, the Canadians have forced the older sibling to look over their shoulder. This is the family drama we're all here for. Players getting set to take to the pitch, 12,000 strong inside Tim Hortons Field in Hamilton, Ontario. And the DJ is putting on a show for these fans. Gareth and Terry will have your call, and we'll see you at halftime.
Thank you, Matt. Canadá 18, 22, 17,
Fans, please remain standing. Raise your Canada colors and join us in singing "O Canada."
Welcome to Hamilton, Ontario, the ambitious city, the Steel City. The next test for Canada and their quest for Qatar, match 10 of 14, comes against a familiar foe as your Canadian men's national team faces the United States. Your referees for today.